Wisdom comes in many ways, and I often find more wisdom for adults in children's books than in novels written for adults. If you are a child of any age and would like to be closer, I'll try to show the pictures. You're welcome to come up and sit on the front row with a parent or grandparent or friend if you'd like to do that. Otherwise, I'll hold it up high so everybody can see. This story is called In God's Name by Sandy Eisenberg Sasso, and the beautiful illustrations are by Phoebe Stone. Maybe if can you see?
Yeah.
Good. After God created the world, all living things on earth were given a name. The plants and the trees, the animals and the fish, and each person, young and old, had a special name. But no one knew the name for God. So each person searched for God's name. The farmer, whose skin was dark like the rich brown earth from which all things grew, called God source of life. The girl whose skin was as golden as the sun that turned night into day, called God creator of light. The man who tended sheep in the valley called God shepherd. The tired soldier who fought too many wars called God maker of peace. And the artist who carved figures from the earth's hard stone called God my rock. Sometimes the people who called God by different names were puzzled. They said every living thing has a single name. The marigold, pansy and lily, the oak tree, sequoia and pine. God must have a single name that is greater and more wonderful than all the other names. Each person thought his name for God was the greatest. Each person thought her name for God was the very best. The farmer who called God source of life said, "This is the true name for God." The girl who called God creator of light insisted, "This is the most splendid name for God." The shepherd, soldier, and artist believed they each had the perfect name for God. But no one listened, least of all, God. And so each person kept searching for God's name. The woman who cared for the sick called God healer. The slave who was freed from bondage called God redeemer. The grandfather whose hair was white with the years called God ancient one. The grandmother who was bent with age and sorrow called God comforter. The young woman who nursed her newborn son called God mother. The young man who held the hand of his baby daughter called God father. And the child who was lonely called God friend. All the people called God by different names. They tried to tell one another that their name was the best, the only name for God, and that all the other names were wrong. But no one listened, least of all, God. Thank you. And so each person kept searching for God's name. Then one day, the person who called God Ancient One, and the one who called God friend, and the one who called God mother, and the one who called God father, all the people who called God by a different name came together. They knelt by a lake that was clear and quiet, like a mirror, God's mirror. Then each person who had a name for God looked at the others who had a different name. They looked into God's mirror and saw their own faces and the faces of all the others. And they called out their names for God: source of life, creator of light, shepherd, maker of peace, my rock, healer, redeemer, ancient one, comforter, mother, father, friend, all at the same time. At that moment, the people knew that all the names for God were good, and no name was better than another. Then all at once, their voices came together, and they called God one. Everyone listened. Most of all, God. You knew it. Friends, baptism is often understood as that sacrament or ritual in which we mark a person's entrance into the Christian community. And it certainly is that. Today has been our opportunity to name and claim Winter as a child of God and as a child of ours, and to explicitly invite her on a journey of following the life and ways of Jesus. And it is also a time to remind ourselves and one another that we are also on that same journey with her, and that we have the support of this community all along the way. But baptism, like the lake in the story that we just shared, can also be understood, I think, as God's mirror, reflecting back to us our uniqueness and our oneness. At baptism, we acknowledge that each of us is a unique daughter or son of God. As she grows, Winter will have a set of experiences that are both similar and different from my experiences and from yours. She will come to know God in ways that are shaped by her particular experience of life. And she will discover names for God that are similar and probably different from mine and from yours. Baptism reminds us that we are called to listen to Winter and to every other child and to every other person as carefully as we can, so that we will better understand her, but also so that we will better understand God and the fullness of the one who created us all. Baptism, like the lake in this story, can also be understood as God's mirror reflecting back to us our oneness. It reminds us that no matter what our genetics or our experiences, we are all one in God because God is one. Whether we are African or Asian or European or American, living in poverty or with more than enough, gay or straight or transgendered, skin as dark as the night or golden as the sun or white as a pearl, follower of Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha, we all belong to God, the all-encompassing one, the all-encompassing reality, because God is one, and therefore we belong to one another. Baptism calls us to the radical notion that we are all sister and brother to one another, and that awareness should transform our lives. Eating with prostitutes and tax collectors and sinners, that awareness transformed Jesus' life. And those of us who seek to follow him know it can transform ours too. Friends, the writers of 1 Corinthians says that we see now in a mirror dimly, but someday we will see face to face. Baptism is a call to wake up and know that that day has arrived. Baptism is both a blessing, a blessed calling, and a gracious gift to us. It is an invitation to a challenging way of life and a joyful awareness that this challenging way of living is truly the only life worth living. And it reminds us that we are on this journey, all of us together. So, let's look one another in the face and have some fun.